Hello and welcome to this week's video. Today I thought it would be fun to kick off HorrorFest 2020 by picking my top 5 horror game picks for 2020. Today I thought it'd be fun to pick games that are not only easily accessible and easy to find, but also just really solid horror titles overall. So these aren't really in any order except for number 1, but we're going to go ahead and kick it off with number 5. So number 5 on my list it was an Xbox 360 exclusive game. It did come to PC. I don't believe it came to other platforms. And that is Condemned Criminal Origins. Now the thing to note about Condemned Criminal Origins is it did get a sequel in 2008. And that game did come to PlayStation 3 as well. But that game actually never received a PC port. It's actually one of the most requested PC ports in a while. But for the purposes of this list, I figured I would pick Condemned Criminal Origins because not only is it a great backwards compatible title on the Xbox family of systems, it's also a game that you can easily pick up on Steam, and it runs pretty decent on a modern console. Condemned Criminal Origins is a pretty terrifying game. One of the things I really like and appreciate about this game, and something that always goes really far with me, is atmosphere. And I feel like Condemned Criminal Origins just oozes a dark and gloomy atmosphere. Also, going through some of these abandoned buildings that aren't quite so abandoned is pretty terrifying as well. So overall, it's a really deep and interesting psychological horror game, but it also just has some really good elements. And even if some aspects of it are dated, including some of the technology used in some of the crime scenes of the game, it's still an excellent horror game overall and highly recommended. Number 4 on my list is actually a game I'm playing through on HorrorFest this year, and that is The Evil Within 2. So, in 2014, Shinji Mikami struck back in the horror realm with The Evil Within, and it was mostly well received, but it definitely had some big flaws. And the thing I'll say about The Evil Within 2 is that all of the flaws I had with the original game were addressed and fixed in the sequel. The sequel is an utterly fantastic horror game, and you honestly don't even really need to play the original game to appreciate what's going on with The Evil Within 2. Another game that's just oozing atmosphere. One of the things I really enjoy about it is that it blends a lot of current horror vibes with it. So you have mixes of Twin Peaks with Hannibal and even bits of The Matrix as well. So it has a really good sci-fi horror element going on to it, and it's just overall a great horror game, and one that I think was slightly overlooked back in 2017. Highly recommended. Number 3 on my list is a game that should come to no surprise to anybody who's played a PC game in the last 10 years, and that is Amnesia: The Dark Descent. So Amnesia is a deeply psychological horror game that has you roaming a isolated castle in the 1800s. But one of the things I really appreciate about this game, and again, the theme I'm banging over your head with this video, is atmosphere. And Amnesia builds an incredibly tense atmosphere throughout its entire runtime. This is a game where you don't really see the enemies, but you have to hide from them. So it's one of those types of horror games, but also just the incredible sound design, because there's so many things going on that play tricks with you. A game I would kind of liken it to would be Eternal Darkness for the GameCube. There's a lot of psychological elements going on in this game. Again, highly recommended. Number 2 on my list, I think, is one of the most overlooked horror games of this past decade, and one of the most criminally underappreciated games of the last decade, and that is Alien Isolation by Creative Assembly. Yes, the same people that make the strategy games made arguably the greatest Alien game of all time. And I think one of the smartest ideas behind Alien Isolation was cutting it from all of the sequels and just making it a direct sequel to the original Alien movie. This time you're taking control of Ripley's daughter, Amanda Ripley, and it really nails home the haunted house in space aspect, and the xenomorph is utterly terrifying in this game. It's very unpredictable, but there's also a bunch of the cyborgs in this game. I actually forget what they call them in the Alien franchise, forgive me, but they are also just terrifying. And as someone who loves the original Alien movie is a drastic love letter to the original 1979 Ridley Scott classic, and a game that should not be overlooked. You don't even have to be a fan of this franchise to appreciate what's going on in this game. And finally, number 1 on my list is going to be my favorite game of all time, and that, of course, is the original Resident Evil, and specifically the GameCube remake that you can now easily get as a remaster. It is available on Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, of course. And it is just a fantastic remaster of a great port of a remake of just my favorite game of all time. I mean, again, I don't need to sit here and tell you how good Resident Evil is. To me, it is the perfect game. I love the horror aspects of it. I love the puzzle aspects of it. I love just the item management. I love the tank controls. I love the goofy camera angles that people seem to hate. I love everything about the game. I love the characters, the story, everything about it. But I think, and again, the whole point of this list is it oozes atmosphere. And I think even the atmosphere in the original Resident Evil is bigger than any of the sequels. Yes, that includes 2, 3, 4, Code Veronica, you name it. I think this is the best Resident Evil game, and it's still, to me, the best game of all time. So there you have it, guys. That's my list of top 5 horror games you should check out in 2020. Again, all these games are super easily accessible, and that was my whole point of making this list. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, comment, and share, and as always, until next time.